Surrendering our worries to God is one of the most profound acts of faith we can undertake. It is an acknowledgement that we, as human beings, are often powerless in the face of life's challenges and uncertainties. Every day, we carry burdens, worries about our health, our families, our finances, our future, and so much more. These worries can consume us, clouding our judgment and weighing heavily on our hearts. Yet, the act of surrendering these worries to God is a powerful reminder that we do not need to carry them alone. God, in His infinite wisdom and grace, invites us to hand over our anxieties to Him, trusting that He will take care of them. The very essence of surrender is the willingness to let go of control. It requires humility to acknowledge that despite our best efforts, we cannot control every aspect of our lives. When we surrender our worries, we are making a conscious decision to release our grip on the things we cannot change and to trust that God, who is sovereign over all things, will provide for us in ways that we cannot always foresee. This is not a passive act. It is one of active trust in His divine providence. Surrendering worries to God does not mean that we will no longer face challenges or hardships. Life will still present its difficulties, but the difference lies in how we respond to them. By surrendering our worries, we shift the burden from our shoulders to God's. We allow ourselves to rest in the certainty that He is always working behind the scenes for our good. In doing so, we are reminded that we do not have to bear the weight of the world on our own. God is always there to carry us, to support us, and to guide us through the rough waters. When we hold on to our worries, we allow them to control us. They become a constant source of stress, fear, and doubt. But when we surrender them to God, we find freedom. We find peace. We find the strength to face whatever comes our way with confidence, knowing that God is with us. He is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in times of trouble. In this surrender, we are not giving up, we are giving over. We are giving over our fears, our doubts, our insecurities, and our burdens, knowing that God is more than capable of handling them. This act of surrender requires faith, a deep and unwavering trust that God will take care of what we cannot. It is a conscious decision to stop fighting against the current of life and to trust that God has a plan for us, even when we cannot see it. It is in this trust that we find peace. For when we surrender our worries, we are resting in the knowledge that God is in control and that His love for us is greater than any concern we may have. Trusting in God's guidance is a profound act of faith that requires us to acknowledge our limitations and surrender to the wisdom and love that God provides. Every day we face countless decisions, from the small and mundane to the life-changing and significant. In these moments, it can be easy to rely on our own understanding, to follow our instincts or what we think is best for us. However, true peace and wisdom come when we choose to trust that God's guidance is always better than our own. God's guidance is not always immediate, nor is it always loud and obvious. Often it comes in subtle ways, through a sense of peace, a quiet whisper in our hearts, or a still moment of clarity in the midst of confusion. Sometimes it is through the counsel of others or a verse from Scripture that speaks directly to our situation. Learning to trust God's guidance requires patience and a willingness to listen attentively to the whispers of His voice. It is in these moments of stillness that we open ourselves to the direction He provides. Trusting in God means surrendering our own plans and desires. It requires us to let go of our need for control and accept that His ways are higher than ours. While we may have our own ideas of how things should unfold, we must remember that God sees the bigger picture. What may seem like a setback or delay in our lives could actually be a part of His greater plan for us. Trusting Him involves believing that, even when we don't understand, His guidance is always for our ultimate good. One of the greatest challenges in trusting God's guidance is learning to rely on Him even when the path is unclear. It can be difficult to move forward without knowing exactly what lies ahead. Yet, this is where faith plays a crucial role. By trusting that God will reveal the next step, when the time is right, we free ourselves from the burden of uncertainty. Faith is not knowing every detail of the journey, but having confidence that God will guide us as we go. God's guidance also calls us to step out of our comfort zones. At times, He may lead us to places that feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable. These moments require courage and trust in His wisdom. Though it may be tempting to hold back or choose the safer option, trusting God means stepping forward in faith and knowing that He will provide the strength and support we need. His guidance will never lead us to a place where His grace cannot sustain us. In trusting God's guidance, we also recognize that His timing is perfect. We often want answers quickly, but God's timing is never rushed. He knows the exact moment when we are ready for the next step in our journey. Trusting in His timing means allowing Him to lead us at the right pace, even if it differs from our own expectations. Through this trust, we experience peace, knowing that God's plan is unfolding in our lives exactly as it should. Finding peace through faith is one of the most profound gifts we can receive. In a world that is filled with noise, stress, and uncertainty, it is easy to feel overwhelmed. The demands of daily life, the weight of responsibilities, and the constant flow of information can leave us feeling restless and unsettled. However, when we place our trust in God and embrace His promises, we begin to experience a peace that transcends our understanding, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but comes from a deep, unshakable faith in God's presence and power. Faith is the foundation upon which peace is built. It is through faith that we are able to see beyond our current struggles and trust that God is in control. When we choose to place our trust in Him, we are acknowledging that we do not have to navigate life's challenges on our own. God's peace comes to us when we surrender our worries and anxieties to Him, knowing that He is greater than any obstacle we may face. This peace is not found in our ability to solve every problem, but in the certainty that God is with us every step of the way, providing the strength and comfort we need. The peace that comes through faith is not a fleeting feeling or a temporary escape from life's difficulties. It is a deep, abiding sense of calm and assurance that remains even in the midst of turmoil. It is the kind of peace that allows us to face our fears without being consumed by them, to endure trials without losing hope, and to find rest for our souls when the world around us is in chaos. This peace is the result of knowing that God is sovereign, that He holds the future, and that nothing can separate us from His love. In moments of uncertainty, faith becomes our anchor. When we do not know what the future holds, faith helps us trust that God's plan is good, even when we cannot see it clearly. It is through faith that we learn to surrender our desires, our expectations, and our timelines to God, trusting that His plan is better than anything we could imagine. As we grow in faith, we come to realize that peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of God in our lives, guiding and sustaining us through every trial. The more we lean into our faith, the more we experience the peace that God promises. This peace comes from knowing that we are never alone, that God's presence is constant, and that His grace is sufficient for every moment. It is through faith that we are able to look at the challenges before us and still find the courage to move forward, and knowing that God is walking beside us. This peace does not come from our own strength or ability to control our circumstances, but from a deep reliance on the love and power of God, who is always faithful and true. Starting the day with gratitude is one of the most powerful practices we can adopt to set the tone for a positive and fulfilling day. As the sun rises, bringing light to a new day, it offers us a fresh opportunity to reflect on the blessings we often overlook. Gratitude is not merely a fleeting emotion. It is a mindset that shapes our perspective and influences how we respond to the world around us. When we begin our day by acknowledging the goodness in our lives, we invite a sense of peace, joy, and contentment that stays with us throughout the day. In a world that often focuses on what is lacking, starting the day with gratitude shifts our attention to what we have rather than what we don't. It is easy to get caught up in the endless cycle of wanting more success, more possessions, more recognition. But when we begin with gratitude, we break free from this cycle. We acknowledge the simple, everyday blessings that God has already provided. The breath in our lungs, the warmth of the sun, the love of our family and friends, and the opportunity to begin a new day are all gifts we often take for granted. By giving thanks for these things, we align ourselves with the abundant blessings in our lives, opening our hearts to receive even more. Gratitude also helps us develop a deeper sense of contentment. When we are grateful for what we have, we cultivate an attitude of appreciation rather than constantly yearning for what is beyond our reach. This mindset shifts our focus away from comparison and dissatisfaction. Instead of looking at others and wishing for their lives or circumstances, we become more attuned to the blessings in our own lives, no matter how small they may seem. Starting the day with gratitude allows us to embrace the present moment, appreciating everything that God has given us right now, rather than waiting for something in the future to bring us happiness. Additionally, gratitude fosters a spirit of humility, recognizing that everything we have is a gift from God helps us stay grounded. It reminds us that we are not entitled to anything, but rather that God's grace and love have provided for us abundantly. When we start our day with a humble heart, acknowledging the many blessings we've received, we are less likely to take them for granted or become consumed by pride. Instead, we approach the day with a sense of thankfulness and reverence, seeking to honor God through our actions, words, and attitudes. Starting the day with gratitude also has a profound effect on our emotional and mental well-being. Studies have shown that practicing gratitude can reduce stress, increase happiness, and improve overall life satisfaction. By focusing on the positive aspects of our lives, we train our minds to look for the good rather than dwelling on the negative. This mental shift can have a ripple effect, influencing how we perceive challenges, handle difficulties, and interact with others. When we are rooted in gratitude, we become more resilient, compassionate, and hopeful in the face of life's inevitable struggles. As we wake up each morning, we are reminded that life is a precious gift, and starting the day with gratitude helps us honor the gift. It invites us to pause, reflect, and give thanks for all that we have been given, and knowing that each new day is an opportunity to live fully with purpose and joy.